Let me go to the settings real quick. That's fine. Stream. Wow, that was fast. Jesus. Task manager. So I'm just gonna check and make sure. Okay, yeah, you're probably fine. Oh, I should open up stream chat on my own computer.
You probably should. And hello. Introduce yourself. You're the host after all.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm R. I'm V's friend. I'm here with the don't turn that audio off. I'm here with a better microphone because I messed up my recommendation and she ended up with one that picks up everything in the surrounding vicinity. So I'll probably be doing most of the talking. I apologize. I understand I am not actually the person, drawing and doing all the stuff, but yeah, I'm here.
I'm just trying to post it everywhere so that everyone is aware that stream is started.
Yeah, condenser mics and V has obviously a condition that makes it difficult to not be in a cool environment, and considering the temperature down there is a medical requirement to have fans on. So I'm here. I do YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that, and I invested way too much money on a decent mic setup, so meh.
Okay, I think I've posted it everywhere that I intended to post it.
Okie dokie.
Cool.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to help set everything up today. There was a little bit of time I helped the other day, but I wasn't able to help set everything up today, so things might be a little rough. I might be a little small. I'm just gonna wee. All right, I'm bigger.
Yeah. All right. Color this guy. I was working.
It's just an NPC.
Yeah, I was working on the NPC pack. Actually, this view doesn't let me see my other panels, but I'm creating a whole bunch for a pack so that other DMs can just grab some characters and have some art, and probably making a whole bunch of just townsfolk essentially. This guy, he could be a blacksmith for all I know. Everyone can just decide what they want from these people, and I can give them a name and a occupation, but that can just be disregarded for whatever works for the person's campaign. Let's see. I intended for this to be a gray.
So I'm watching chat. Vanessa is probably going to be focusing on art. Oh no, my body, my lower half.
Yeah, you pulled yourself too high.
No, hang on. Let me just sink back down now. Okay, we're good. Vanessa is going to be focusing on doing art, so I'll be here taking chat responsibility and interacting with you guys, considering the last time we did this last year, and oh my god, it's already been a year.
Yep.
Not too much was actually ended up being done in the way of art, just because there's a lot of conversation. So we're going to try to focus a little bit on letting you guys see the progress of things that are being done, and I'll be the one that is blabbing this incessantly.
But if there are any questions, I can still answer. It's just, as you can see, I literally slowed down as I started replying. Also, this computer might crash quite a few times. Not the computer itself, but Photoshop.
Yep, because Adobe is terrible.
But
because Adobe doesn't care about stability. No, the computer is fine. Adobe is terrible.
I can't wait to go back to Mac.
Yeah, whenever that ends up arriving.
Next month. supposedly. My wallet is weeping. I don't make the
Yes,
kind
no
of
God.
income that, you know,
That's true.
makes it so that I can easily swallow some sort of cost of that kind of thing.
And you end up running into the double whammy of when your computer is down, you are de-incentivized to work on the comic because there's a flow and expectation that you have when you're working in Photoshop that doesn't exist on this computer. So it makes it a lot harder to actually commit to something to work on. So
yeah, this has literally two layers. Anything I try to do with radio silence is hundreds, like at least 100 layers. There's no way I'd be able to run it on this one.
Well, again, the computer can handle it. Photoshop cannot, because Photoshop is dumb.
Handle it fine on my old computer.
Photoshop is dumb.
Yeah, we can agree with that.
Photoshop is way too heavy for what it does.
Maybe. I'm not committing to this. I'm just kind of flatting the colors right now.
I immediately saw him wearing wait, isn't that his undershirt? Isn't that the white part?
Nope. This is a kilt.
Oh, it's a kilt.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do plaid.
Oh, 100%. This is the most self-indulgent thing I can do. I love drawing plaid.
Do you though? Because
yeah,
it doesn't sound like it after you're done drawing plaid.
That's usually because I've decided to make a plaid thing throughout an entire scene of radio silence.
Like the plaid cat thing that you did?
Yeah. Like that.
I think at some point my food is going to be done, so I'll have to dip out for a second to go get that, and then obviously I'm going to be intermittently muting, so I'm not slapping my lips against the microphone while eating.
Okay, very visceral description.
This is exactly how I do, yes.
Man, we need like background music. The like copyright free simple.
I mean, they have background music that you can use. Twitch has this whole thing that's like, oh yeah, but it's some weird nonsense about being integrated in with like OBS, where it has to go to a specific audio channel, and then because of that it goes to a specific like VOD channel or some nonsense. So
probably so they can mute it, but
yeah, probably. I recommend for those who are currently watching, probably have their own music pulled up, and if not, then anything. Hang on, I have to think about how to say this because you keep making fun of me. Oh no, I don't know which one it is.
I don't know what you're about to say, so I can't help you there.
I think it's lo-fi. I kept saying lo-fi, and you kept yelling at me.
Lo-fi. But it's also Doggy and not Doge. I don't care what anyone says. Doge. No, I don't care.
No, I'm asking chat now. I realize we've only been live. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can listen to that. It's really nice to relax too. We've only been live for not even 10 minutes yet, and I need to ask chat. Is it Doge or Doggy?
It's literally a riff on Doggy. It's dog with an E on the end.
No, it's Doge.
No. Where's the extra D in there?
Doge?
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying Doge. Doge.
No, it's not Dodge. It's Doge. If there's an extra D in there, it would just be Dodge, and then it'd just be a truck. Bales agrees with me. Oh yes, the infamous Doge truck. I think that's just called the Saber truck.
The Fjord truck.
The Fjord truck.
I am extremely excited about that campaign.
Stranger says, yeah, you're wrong on this one. I've never heard anyone say it that way before.
Doggy.
Oh, it's Doge. See, Doggy needs another G, or else
No, it's literally
yeah.
dog. E.
Yeah. No.
Because it's an
No, because
equine of dog.
what? No, it's not. No, Doge was before it became a coin. Doge was just a stupid meme that people saw a funny looking Shiba Inu and went,
Perfect.
I'm gonna adopt that.
So now I am that person who does the GIF thing, but for doggy.
So to protect yourself, you should just never ever talk about it ever.
Oh, that's easy. I don't talk about cryptocurrency, and I don't talk about memes.
You don't talk about memes. You don't talk about memes, huh?
Nope.
Hey, out of curiosity, how many hours do you have on the D&D meme subreddit?
None. I don't ever go to that
bullshit.
cursed place.
Bullshit. You literally sent me images from that subreddit.
No. Clearly, I
Yeah.
found them somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my food dinged, so I'll be back in a minute or two. I just need to see if it's actually done cooking.
All right. I was bringing up a reference. Figure out what to do about his... yeah, I could do that instead. Give him leather. Leather vest. Might need a little more red. Yeah. I'm just, like I was saying, I'm doing NPC artwork for probably DM's Guild or possibly just selling it on Gumroad or something to that effect. For our other DMs, we need to grab some NPCs. Seems to be that there's a gap there for that kind of thing, because people like to just take images off the internet, and it really upsets people when they find that their very deeply connected character to their own hearts is being used in other people's games. Especially heinous examples of that, where people were actually contacting the artist asking how to play that character. That was literally the person's D&D character.
I remember this.
Yeah.
Also, I'm back for another minute or two.
Okay. I was just explaining. There's the niche that it needs filling that hoping to help with. We'll see. I'm doing a pack of like a dozen. I think I only have 3 drawn right now, but...
Hey, that's interesting. I wonder... So, full clarity, I helped a little bit at the start of the NPC generation just to get ideas and some stuff down. So I'm curious, do you think it would be worthwhile to include... Okay, question. Do you think it would be better to make an equivalent book where it's player characters, not non-player characters, where you make a bunch of like level 1 base characters and give them and like flesh out their personalities and descriptions and class and predicted subclass or whatever, so that people...
Yay, follower.
Candy.
Thank you.
Candy. So that people can actually do this, so players can do the similar thing that you're trying to give the NPCs.
Yes, but I've seen that they're called adoptables, because then the person owns that character for the exact same reason why they don't want, they want to feel special. This is not some character that is generic. And I've seen people sell those characters quite effectively, and they theme them to whatever their followers are asking for, or they auction them off.
Yeah, I get the concept of that, but I do get the adopting concept, but I can't help but wonder if it would be beneficial for people to pick up a book and be like, especially new players, to be able to pick up a template, if you will, of pre-existing characters that they can see how like a personality or trait or background might influence a class selection or the like. And um I think it would be especially powerful for one shot characters.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Sounds fun.
Yes. So Eons makes a good point. They are basically pre-gens,
Yeah,
and mentions that the starter set actually has some. So yeah, it would basically be pre-generated characters. It could be that, I guess in that case, if it was kind of like a, well, it probably wouldn't sell very well. You could just add a little snippet to the NPCs of like player class, because you already have basically everything around the NPCs, maybe minus um, a class, because as some people know, giving a player class to an NPC can bring on a world of trouble between having to now micromanage the NPC's capabilities or spells or feats or stat blocks or
yeah,
anything like that. Um, but at least having the kind of like, so like, it's this person would be a wizard at X level. Go nuts if you want that, or just generic book guy.
generic book guy, book nerd. Can poot out a cantrip occasionally. Also, I'm bouncing way too high. My body is floating.
You have no bottom.
Can you fix that?
I can't fix that. Yeah, give me a second. Okay, try now.
Bounce, 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 bounce. Okay.
Yeah, okay, you should be good. Um, there's the other thing that I think would be a fun idea for an NPC book is it's literally just D&D NPCs colon subvert expectations.
Thanks for following.
Aaron's Canadian. Oh, that seems about right. And
Well,
it's
this
literally
is-
the whole book
Yeah.
just completely flips stereotypes in D&D like up on their head. Like a wizard who's a jock.
Perfect.
Like
A big
wizard.
half orc wizard that you would that does have high
Yeah.
strength because
Yeah, exactly.
natural abilities and all. But
It's
they
just an
chose
orc.
to.
Yeah, it's
I know
just
Bales
become
will
a
love
wizard.
that one.
I like that concept because the thing about classes, at least in D&D and the whole rule system, is that you can start your adventure as any class regardless of your stats. So I would absolutely love to see like a super strong orc with like a 10 or 9 intelligence with a wizard class, and trying to figure out how this, lower than average intelligence being, how they do their wizarding, right? Because the thing about being a wizard is it's not that you're smart. Like being smart makes you a better wizard, but to be a wizard, you don't necessarily need to be smart. So I would love to see like even a super low intelligence, like an 8 intelligence or 7 intelligence character, and their wizard book is literally just scribbles, like
The
like
worst notes in all of all times. Like
it's mostly pictures, like stick figures, and there's like
it's
one
all
stick figure
diagrams.
plus another stick figure equal, and then there's just like a horrible drawing of an explosion underneath it, and this is how he remembers the somatic components for Fireball.
Oh god.
I think stuff like that would be super fun because as DMs and sometimes as players, it's difficult to step out of the makes sense category, right? Because you would think that obviously wizards would be, intelligent because that's their main stat, and seeing intelligent wizards makes sense for, potentially, the story you're trying to tell. But I know as a DM, players absolutely love individual NPCs that go against the norms and latch on so hard. So
Yep.
I think a book of flipped stereotypes would be really enticing for players to interact with. Because I would love to meet a wizard orc whose entire spell book is filled with nothing but script like stick figures. I would love that person to the ends of the earth,
That
and I
would
would
be a lot of
find them
fun
a headband of intellect.
because it's like, yeah, that would be a lot of fun though, because that's why someone like a DM is going for a book like this, is because they've lost out on some part of it. They're too busy. They feel creatively uninspired, and having something that is completely unexpected like that will help generate some sort of plot line, I'm sure, with whatever particular story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah, and that whole headband of intellect could be a whole background story for this particular orc. Like, he wanted to become a wizard and he knows he's not very good at doing it, so, or she or whatever, um decides that I know of a magical item that makes people really really smart, and I want to be better at being a wizard, so I'm trying to find it. And that can make it its own entire side plot and side arc to help out this person find a headband of intellect and become very intelligent, and then all of a sudden become extremely proficient at being a wizard. And then, if the players move on or they move somewhere else, they can easily meet up with this person who has now become an influential figurehead in some sort of academy, or is a traveling teacher or something like that, because now they have the capability of being that level of intelligence to have that interesting connection. Because if you take the headband of intellect off, you go down to your original intelligence. You go down to being dumb. And then if you put the headband of intellect back on, I don't know if it's tunable, but if you put it back on, your intelligence goes back up.
It's a
But your sense
tuned
of
thing,
self
but
never
yeah.
leaves.
Yeah.
So you know what it's like to be dumb, and you know what it's like to be smart. And being able to teach not the most intelligent people how to become wizards, because you can actually now, this particular
Relate.
person can connect to both of them and relate to both of them, and knows how to teach somebody who's not the most intelligent because they are around that same level, but are now smart because of the headband of intellect and can grasp how to teach. Yeah, it could be a whole different thing, and that's all just from one concept of a dumb orc being a wizard. That's it. Like, there's so many different things you could do. A ranger whose like companion is a rabid squirrel. I don't know. Turns out the squirrel is a true polymorphed bear, and it's not rabid. It's just really angry all the time. Because if you were a bear and you were, changed into a squirrel, you'd be pissed too. Ignoring the fact that true polymorph changes your stat blocks and all that stuff. But yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Also, is it?
Hmm?
Yeah, colors. Yeah, I was supposed to say, is it weird to just say hello Canadian and I'd end up talking to two people? Oh, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I gotta go get the food because I just heard everything ding and beep. But
Yep.
before I go, for those in chat, I have a question. We're all Canadian here. All Canadians are a hive mind. Um, do you guys have a specific food that makes you either think or want to do something specific? For instance, if you make nachos, do you feel the need to watch a sports game? Or if you make s'mores, do you feel a need to like if you make like in-house s'mores, do you feel like you need to go, have a campfire or stuff like that? Is there a specific food for you that you would make that makes you go, "Oh man, I should do this"? And what is it?
And now I'm curious why you asked that question.
Because the meal that I'm about to eat, which by the way, I literally just threw together because we were going to stream, so it's just honey glazed barbecue chicken on white rice. But I asked that question because every time I make this meal, I just want to watch anime. Because at some point when I first made this
Nerd.
meal, I was watching anime. And then the second time I made the meal, I was still watching the same anime. So the third time I made the meal, I immediately had that Pavlov instinct of like, I should go find some anime to watch. And then I was like, Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
And now every time I make this meal, I can't not think about it. Cheetos and Mountain Dew, D&D.
I mean,
Yeah, fair.
yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know if I have a snack that. Let's see.
You can think about it while getting your food.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Okay. Well, I wanted to see the answers. I was curious. Anyway, I'll go get my food. I'll be right back. I'll read chat when I get back.
Might flip around through there's 3 different NPCs that I've decided to work on.
I saw the message, Eons.
This guy, I don't think I have a portrait up for him yet, but for the others, just to show you. This lady is labeled as Old Ranger. I got to use a cane for that, although I found a magic item, or I had created a magic item? I can't remember. Something magic item related was with her cane, that it could be transformed. And so that's her full body one. And then I have a portrait version, because I had run a poll that whether people wanted portraits, because obviously tokens, or if they found it more useful to have a full body image. It kind of came right down the middle, so for the first one I think it'll be pricier since it has double the art, but, or at least for the most part, most of it will have full body and portraits. That's her. I think she could make a very interesting ally to any kind of party. And then I have a half-orc bard / messenger type. Very fancy man. And there's his portrait version. Gotta keep everything. And then I was working on his full body. I was trying to get my brushes from my old setup. Some of you don't know, but my laptop had a catastrophic failure back in August, and the battery just swelled up, knocked out the motherboard. I'm having to work with this setup and hoping for the best of everything being backed up properly. Fingers crossed it is, but being able to recover absolutely everything that I have. And my computer's coming in next month. I finally ordered it. And ouch to my bank account for that one. And I somehow managed to pull the nib out of my pen. Yes, I do like this guy. I think he'll be fun. Just because I feel like there ish. Yeah, that looks cool. I make him a little paler. Like, shush. No. Shush. Every key command I have is wrong because I'm on a PC instead of a Mac. Gets inky. Oh, this is... Anyway. That's the side of this thing. Okay. This. There. And yes, like I said, I think it will be really fun to have these offered to DMs to, because I know I get stuck in a rut. And it just takes something to kind of knock me out of it. Sometimes I'll just find some PDFs, find some really cool homebrew rules or suggestions. Even a meme, as mentioned, even though I totally don't pay attention to memes for sure, never. Anyway, got distracted. Went over to the half work.
It's impolite to lie.
I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, let's save him for later. Work on him a little more. Alright. Buddy up his... a little more.
Eons, I actually can sympathize with that, associating like being in the car and going places, because my dad and I think only twice, but for some reason stuck. My dad and I ended up at Walmart one time, and they have these really big ass bags of popcorn. To just be frank, they're just huge. We're talking like bigger than the tip of your finger. Oh, massive. And him and I were popcorn fiends. We'd make popcorn at home using like a pan and like oil and put salt on it like all the time. So we ended up with this giant bag of popcorn, and we'd only really get it if we were more than a half hour away from home. We get the bag of popcorn, we'd eat it in the store while shopping for other things.
Okay.
We'd then buy it, leave with it, and then continue to eat it on the drive home. And by the time we got home, half of that bag, that like 2.5 foot tall bag of popcorn would be gone.
No, I see, that's impressive.
Popcorn is delicious. It's very interesting because you can make healthy popcorn, which healthy popcorn is basically coconut oil, and that's it. That is the equivalent of healthy popcorn, or air popped, but air popped popcorn is a sin most of the time, unless you're mixing it with other things. But you can also make popcorn stupidly unhealthy, like,
well, of course,
caramel popcorn.
Caramel for sure, yeah.
Here's an absolute butt ton of sugar and cream mixed together to make caramel, and I'm just gonna put this on my popcorn now. Yeah, it's basically they were movie theater popcorn, like the stuff that would legitimately taste like it came from a movie theater, not like air quotes movie theater popcorn. So my dad and I would hound the living crap out of it, and then we'd get home and then not eat popcorn for like a month.
Yeah, that's one easy way to never want that thing again. Not for a long time. Moderation. Texture.
You're talking to a person who will binge watch an anime season in a day. I don't know what moderation is.
Nah, apparently not. You also would run like ridiculous sessions for us for D&D too, on a whim, because that's when inspiration just hit you like a truck. No schedule, only whim.
Whim o'clock. I also miss movie theater popcorn. Like, it was kind of expensive for what it was because it was movie theater.
Well,
but
yeah, that's how they make most of the money. They don't make much money off of the
tickets or anything like
tickets,
that. Yeah, it's all concession stuff. I miss it, and there's no real cheap way to replicate it because you have to buy like it's got like a powder, and you have to buy like that popping, like that oil popping machine, and then you like have to buy this specific type of oil that they use. It's a very specific mixture of stuff that goes into the movie theater popcorns. And one of the problems with it is it's super fucking unhealthy.
Yep.
So if you do eat it, or if you do figure out how to make it, you're going to regret figuring out how to make it. Because I figured out how to make brownies from scratch one time. Like literally from scratch, like cocoa powder and flour. And then about 4 weeks later, I purposely forgot how to make it. Because I was like, I can't like stop making it. Like the whole reason like before why I didn't eat brownies all the time or cake all the time or cookies all the time is basically that they were pre-made in like those boxes that you buy or in the rolls that you buy, and like if you didn't have them then you couldn't make them, so it was like a scarcity. But when you figure out that cookies are basically butter, flour, sugar, and egg, and you go, I have all of those things, it's a very slippery slope to start to making literal tray. Now I don't mean a tray of cookies like individual sized cookies. I mean you take a tray, you put it down, you put aluminum foil on it, and then you dump the entire thing of batter onto the tray and smear it across the tray.
Yes. See,
Literal
moderation again, another issue.
Okay, I will say it took me at least a week to eat it.
Oh, thank God. I was worrying there for your like veins, for your poor body.
Yeah, yes, pan cookie, because man, dude, making a whole bunch of circles out of these things are really annoying. They just end up in flat circles anyway, so why don't you just coat an entire sheet of cookie, and then when it comes out of the oven, the best part is a majority of the cookie is the center. So you get like that really nice fudgy center cookie bits, and then like the outside are the ones that are like the you know, the more crunchy bits. So when it's done, you can just break it apart into you know, moderately sized pieces and then stick them in individual baggies.
Yes, but would most people?
I take that as a challenge that the next time I make one of these, I'm literally just going to keep it in one solid piece and eat it from one side to the other.
I will continue to send you that gif of Troy from Community eating the one cookie and then wondering why his stomach hurts. And then when told, he said, why would something so good hurt me? That doesn't make any sense. Plaid time? Is it plaid time? Excite. Plaid.
Yeah, I have this problem with sweets because endorphins. Savory stuff, I think, is a more consistent part of my diet, where sweets are very like roller coaster. Like I'll have a shit ton of them, and then I'll feel gross and bad, and then I won't have any for like a couple weeks to a month, and then I'll have a crap ton, and then I won't have any, and then I'll have a crap ton, and then I won't have any. So it's this wild roller coaster ride. Whereas like savory foods like crackers or fries or potatoes or stuff like that, those kind of like, they're in the middle, and I eat in moderation that particular thing because it's more consistent part of my diet. But the reason why the sugar is all over the place is because it's like eat a bunch of sugar and then gain a couple pounds and then be like, oh man, sugar's terrible for me, I shouldn't eat that. And then a month goes by and you're like, man, I could really go for like this pie and this bag of Oreos and these lemon bars, and then you buy a shit ton of sweets, and then you eat a crap ton of sweets and you're like, oh, that's not good for me, I shouldn't do that. And then a month goes by.
This has been a lesson in adulting.
Look, I may have the age of an adult, but I have the inner like soul of a child.
Clearly.
Because at some point when I was a kid, I went, when I'm going to grow up, I'm going to eat ice cream whenever the fuck I want. And then my body went, hey, guess what? You're lactose intolerant. And I went, I don't care. I'm still going to eat ice cream whenever the hell I want.
I think that's most people's experience when they find that out.
I didn't
They
get
just
to this
take
stage just to
Lactaid.
have my body telling me, no, I'm still going to eat it.
Well,
And then I'm going to suffer.
just take Lactaid like most people do.
Yeah, I probably could.
There's no such
But see,
thing
if I
for me to be able to eat gluten, unfortunately.
But see, if I don't make my body suffer, how will my body know that it needs to fix the issue?
Is it fixing it? It sounds like it's trying to, but you're ignoring the signals.
I have no idea.
Clearly. It's like,
Every
please don't
lactose
ever.
intolerant person, yeah. So, the resident other Canadian says every lactose intolerant person takes that as a challenge rather than a limitation, for sure.
Yeah.
Can I get away with eating this mac and cheese today? I think I had a piece of it yesterday. Is this cheese hard, or is it like high in lactose? And these questions always end up with, I'm gonna eat it anyway, I don't care.
Terrible.
Followed by, it was worth it! Yeah. There is like one thing for dietary stuff that I actually straight up I can't like tough it out. If your karma is good, you'll survive. If I have good karma today, I won't get sick. Um, I used to eat so much. Okay, I shouldn't say yet. Okay, let me start this over. I preferred sour candy the most. I preferred, if I was gonna eat candy, it was gonna be sour. Warheads, sour Skittles, sweet and sour, Sour Patch Kids, whatever. And I think at some point I might have legitimately messed up my stomach. And nowadays I cannot eat too much sour in a short time frame. I cannot do it.
You've scarred yourself.
It's to me the equivalent of like being celiac. It hurts a lot. And it is one of the few times where I went, that was not worth it. That was not worth it at all. Please make my suffering end. Now I only have like these mini. So like I have a bag of candy for Halloween and it has Sour Patch Kids in it, but there's only 5. There's like the little mini packs. So if I want some, I'm literally limited to only 5.
Now, is this the candy that you're giving kids, or is this candy that you bought yourself to eat?
If there's candy left over, I put it in a bowl. Most years there's no candy left over.
That's what I figured. You know that the cheap candy comes after Halloween, right? That's when most people buy the like buckets of candy.
Yeah, I was debating whether or not I was gonna buy more candy after Halloween.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing how much of a rip-off candy actually is. Or I guess I should correct that to say it's amazing how much profit candy companies can make. Because like I have seen how to turn cocoa beans into chocolate, and it ain't fun. Like there's fermentation involved, and yeah, it ain't It ain't fun. But we take chocolate for granted because of how easily accessible it is to us, but it is actually a very annoying process to make. Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of companies in America use outsourced child labor from other countries.
The stream has gone places.
Sorry, I should clarify. Eon's in the chat says my stepmom used to work for Nestle. It's pretty wild, and of course, also they use child labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the way they get around dealing with that stuff is they have a consultant, air quotes, in a country that they communicate with to make factories. And then that consultant or company is responsible for the management and production of that factory. And they basically purposely take a hands-off approach and purposely don't investigate or ask questions to this entity that they've handed off production to, and only say what they want. And so what ends up happening is in those countries, these factories or these, systems, they will hire under the table workers. And essentially, the under the table workers could be any age. They could be, 30 or something, whatever. Or they could be like 13. And since they're under the table, the government doesn't know about it. It's not on record. And it doesn't go up the chain of command. So no one really knows, air quotes, that child labor is happening until there's some sort of investigation, which it's not even really an investigation. It's literally you just show up to the factory. That's it. And because the parent company doesn't know this is happening and it wasn't documented or given to them, they only end up with a slap on the wrist. But companies like Apple, who I'm going to continually bash because I hate them, companies like Apple have had internal circulated documents stating that they are aware of child labor in China and other countries, and have taken, in quotes, taken necessary actions to combat it. And what they end up doing is they end up sending these, like, I don't want to say cease and desist letters, but they end up sending these letters telling them that they should stop doing that. But they don't put in any ramifications. They don't put in any like punishments or anything like that. It's just to follow within like the guidelines of we tried to do something about it. So we sent a letter to the company and we told them to stop. But we also told them that we want 30% more production by the end of 3 years from now. So
D&D and comics.
Hang on, I'm gonna go ahead and read chat. Okay, so Eon says now she works for SodaStream, which literally supports war crimes. Her work history is so funny to me.
Oh
And
my god.
resident Canadian says, "Oh, candy companies are borderline organized crime lords. They hire the same PR firm the tobacco companies use to convince everyone smoking wasn't so bad, to convince us that fatty foods rather than sugary foods were the health problem." Yeah. Yeah, 100%. There is so much there's so much like how do I put this? No, I don't want to say, it's not divergence, it's deflection. There's so much deflection in large scale industries that you can't even figure out where like root causes of things actually are. Like there's this whole thing of ISPs or internet service providers talking about how, oh, well, we have to maintain the network, and the more data you use, the more it quote unquote wears down the network, and like all of this sort of stuff. And anyone in the tech space who knew anything about this was basically looking at them gawking like, the internet isn't a finite resource.
Yeah.
You can't expend the internet. You don't have like internet fossil fuels that supply the function of the internet that can be exhausted and then everyone loses it. And that's what they were trying to make it out. They were trying to make out that the internet is somehow a finite resource. So they started imposing data caps and telling people like, oh, if you want to use more than this amount of data, you have to pay us extra money, because that extra money somehow increases the supply of the available internet.
Yeah, you're talking to a bunch of Canadians, and we have some of the worst fees in the world for internet, and it's a huge monopoly here, so...
Yeah.
We
Australia still beats you guys. I know that much. Australia is terrible. Yeah, the internet is a series of tubes, and then sometimes you got to spend or send someone in to unplug them. Yeah. Canadian internet and data fees are so bad, people regularly buy European phone plans. I believe it. So
it costs less to roam than it would to buy one here.
To be native. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is exactly what the American internet system would be if we didn't start with multiple providers, right? Because the internet, or the World Wide Web, or hypertext, HTTP, I forget what it stands for, that started as a invention in the American army. Basically the government made it, and it was a way for people to communicate over distance what was happening as computers started ramping up in power. So the birth of the internet and the like kind of happened in America, and everyone jumped on board. Basically everyone saw that was happening, and everyone wanted a piece of the pie. So there's a whole bunch of companies that jumped on board to get a slice of that, to provide that, basically. And so you ended up having a bunch of companies that all fought each other, and there was a bunch of competition and stuff like that. But as companies got bigger and their regions started expanding with their hard lines on the poles and all that sort of stuff, they started just flat out buying out other companies and then taking over their infrastructure and just annexing it onto their existing infrastructure. And eventually, as we have seen, only 3 or 4 companies remained at the end. Verizon, Comcast, and fucking, I don't know if AT&T still does internet or not, but there's very few companies. I think, and I'm not entirely sure, but I think what happened in Canada was there was a less initial jump, so you had less providers popping up, and because there was only a couple of them, they rose to prominence, and then that was it. There was no competition ever. And one of the biggest problems in America is this still bugs the hell out of me, but duopolies or triopolies or quadopolies or whatever, but there's these whole antitrust laws that are supposed to be in effect, that are supposed to prevent companies from fixing the game, if you will.
The crash count is at 2, by the way.
Oh no, it crashed again?
Yep.
Oh geez. But there's these laws that are supposed to prevent these companies from fixing the game, but it only prevents them from communicating the fact that they plan on fixing the game. If companies, I guess, communicate with body language rather than texts and emails and calls, then they can still rig the game. And that's really what happened in the Northeast, is that they basically agreed to not step on each other's toes in regions, to become a regional monopoly. And then they did whatever the hell they wanted in that region. And I think it's the same thing in Canada, except the regional monopolies are huge.
I mean, probably.
We need a crash counter.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do that. Hang on. I can jump on your system. Do you want me to add a crash counter for you?
Sure, yes.
Just for memes? All right. All right, let me just jump in here. Go ahead and add a new text. Text. Was it 2 times?
2 times so far, yep.
Okay. size?
Okay,
256. That's a little big.
it's a little big. What?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. It's been a bit since I've had to do this. I know there's a way to change the color. Oh, there's the color. And we're just gonna head and make that black so it can be readable. I'm pretty sure there's an outline. Yeah, there's an outline. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and invert that. We're gonna do internal color is gonna be white, and then the external color is going to be black. Black. That's the color. And we're gonna set that outline size to, let's say, 5 pixels. A little more. Yeah, that's easily readable. There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Two times an hour. It's not as bad as it usually can be. Anyway, let's see. So do we had questions from somebody about Photoshop and the like.
Fine.
Hmm?
I was just reading chat for the Vine, as the kids say.
Kids.
You know what's gonna be funny?
Mm-hmm.
As the kids say is actually probably gonna become its own meme. That if you say as the kids say, it actually targets your age because no one actually says that.
Well, yeah, I think that's already true.
Stop.
Yeah. So Photoshop related things. I only use basically 2 brushes from, well, 3 because I use like this one from, it's native to Photoshop, but I had to dig out the brushes after my computer crashed, and R here helped. I was trying to find a literal triangle brush. I've used it since college. It's my sketching brush. It's triangular shaped. You saw me using it for the textures. I use it for sketching. It is a nice brush. I enjoy this brush. And I couldn't remember what it was called.
Because it was a triangle brush.
Because it was just a little triangle brush. So it took you like no time to find it on Photoshop or on Google to like, and it was literally called the triangle brush, right?
Yeah, it was Kyle's triangle brush or something like that. So the amazing thing about this was, after V's computer just decided to give up the ghost, obviously I felt bad, so I tried helping, get as much stuff back that was originally on the system. And obviously it's very important to artists that you get what you're used to using, because it's muscle memory at that point. Or I would even go so far as to say eye memory. Like there's an expectation of visual input that you should see when you're doing something that can actually be jarring if it's not normal. And I have an example of that I'll go into later. But basically I was like, okay, well, when did you get the brush? I was like, college. I was like, okay, well, how long ago was college?
Yeah, did the math on that.
So I go into Google, I type in triangle brush. We figure out the year that she was was it freshman or sophomore that you started, like?
Yeah, I think it was probably second year or something.
Yeah.
That effect.
So we figured out what year the second one year was. So I was like triangle brush, and then I typed in the year, and like Photoshop, like, because I knew it came in a pack or something like that. So whatever the extension was, and I start scrolling through the Google results. And Google has this really nifty feature that they will tell you when that result was basically added into the Google search engine. So you could see which results came back in that year.
And this was this was posted on DeviantArt, right? You had to scrape it from...
Yeah, it was on DeviantArt. Yeah. And it wasn't even, so the funny thing about this is it was posted on DeviantArt on that time frame. I found it in DeviantArt, and it was a person who used that brush to make an art piece, and they linked it to the original person's website, who, let's be frank, it's been a bit since you've been in college. So by the time I got there, it was down. It was no longer up and supported. The website was gone. So I ended up having, thankfully, this person put the title of the brush pack. So I ended up having to search the title of the brush pack and try to find somebody who like hosted it on like Mediafire or Google or something else, because this person's original website didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I did find it, and I got it downloaded. I was super proud of myself. We get into Photoshop and it works, but it's not quite right. And then 30 minutes later, digging through your history in your iCloud, you find your brush settings that has it still in it.
Yeah. But you managed to find it because someone credited the creator. Let's bring it back to that and applaud that person for actually crediting.
What are credits?
Because had we not that, we wouldn't have figured out what to search.
That's true.
In my cloud. But
So going off on a separate tangent about that eye memory. So something very interesting. Your eyes and your muscle memory and basically everything about the body, they're all connected. So when it's one of the reasons why highway hypnosis is a thing, is because you don't have any real change in scenery and it's a constant drone of things happening, is because your eyes are connected to everything else in your body, and when there's not a lot of things stimulating your visual cortex or your visual part of your brain, it is similar to being asleep, because what happens when you go to bed? You close your eyes, you cut off visual stimulation. So if your eyes aren't being stimulated that much, even though you're seeing light and you're seeing things, it will actually still give you the same effect of becoming drowsy because your brain isn't receiving information. But when it comes to doing like art or drawing, if you have like a specific brush, or you have a specific, if you're doing IRL, if you have a specific pencil, and you've only used that one pencil for years and years and years, you got used to the grit, how much resistance it's going to have when you move it across a piece of paper. You know how hard you need to press to get a specific coloration out of the pencil. There's many things that when you see it, your muscle memory is behaving properly. So if you get a different pencil and you go to do something and it visually looks different, it will screw with your muscle memory.
Yeah.
Because now, in order to get it to look the same, you have to change your muscle memory, and it's gone. It's completely gone at that point. And your lines are going to be too dark, or your lines are going to be too bright, or they're going to be too thin because you don't know how hard to push, and everything is just completely messed up. And taking this from art and bringing it into video games, because that's where I live. Another great example is I don't play as much anymore, because the hardware that I have, it makes it difficult to play. But I used to play a crap ton of Beat Saber. It's a VR rhythm game where you have lightsabers and you hit blocks in specific directions. It's a very simple concept game. But one of the very interesting things about the game is that your right saber is one color and your left saber is another color. So your brain and muscle memory is now working with color recognition, because once you get into the top, I want to say even the top 10,000 players, you have played the game enough and have worked with a coloration enough that instinctually, without even thinking about it, when you visually see a color, you know what side or what arm it represents. So if you took a top Beat Saber player, I got close to the top 1,000 in the world. No, top 1,000 in the United States. I think it was top 2,500 in the world. You take a top Beat Saber player and you change the colors of the blocks, you will immediately see a degradation in performance, because they now actually have to think about what coloration goes to what arm now. because the visual input from the blocks have changed. Nothing else has changed. There's still the same speed, it's the same song, it's the same direction, everything is the same. But because you changed the color, your brain realizes that the color has changed, which messes with your prefrontal cortex because you're trying to now accommodate for the color change by figuring out what colors represent what.
Yep.
And it will completely throw you off. And it's such a fascinating thing to me because I did it once. I played a song that I knew how to do, and it was kind of difficult, but I got through it. And then I changed colors, and I started fumbling at the start. And I got into a rhythm, and I got into the rhythm of the song where I started using my muscle memory for the song rather than my visual connection. But there was one point where the blocks started coming really fast and really close together that I had to actually figure out which coloration belonged to which arm, and I immediately failed. It's incredibly fascinating. I mean, to me at least.
Yeah, I would agree. Not only changing absolutely everything, but at least if you had something familiar, like the brush, it helps me to forget that most of my hotkeys and stuff are all thrown off. And
Oh god, yeah, that was a whole adventure too,
yeah.
trying to get your key assignments the same as Mac, because for the audience, um she's on Windows now. She used to be on Mac, and she couldn't stand the keyboard, the cheap ass keyboard that she got for her computer or PC or Windows computer, and wanted to go back to using the keyboard that she always used for her Mac because that's what she used for doing art and the hotkeys and all that sort of stuff. So we end up getting it hooked up. We figure out that it's just a standard Bluetooth keyboard, and you can hook it up to the Bluetooth connection in the PC. But the Control Alt Windows key, all of the weird stuff on Mac that is Command and Alt, and there's no Control and there's no Mac key or anything like that. All of that stuff had to be remapped to keep muscle memory roughly the same. And I actually had to I ended up getting her a program that frankly I used, that is a registry editor, to go into the Windows registry settings and change on a registry level the button press of the command key to not be the Windows key and to be the control key because you can't change it in software. There's no Windows software key changer or anything like that built into Windows so you can move around keys. And some physical keyboards you can change that in the software for the keyboard, but there was no native support to it. And since it was a Mac keyboard, there's no Mac software equivalent for it to be in Windows to change that sort of setting. So yeah, there was a reason why Radio Silence hasn't gotten an update in a little bit, and it's because
it's incredibly frustrating to use this program on this computer.
Yeah, it's easy to do a bust. It's easy to draw things and be able to put them down, but when you're working with a deadline and you know that the thing needs to get out in a specific amount of time, it makes it so much more emotionally difficult to get things done, because if it crashes or your keybinds aren't the same, and when you're under pressure, everything gets amplified. And there's just it was just end up being unhealthy to try to work in a new environment with a different version of Photoshop with all that sort of stuff and still get everything out. So thankfully the new Mac should be showing up in
apparently
less than 3 weeks, less than 4 weeks.
Something to that effect. And then I can get back to work. If anyone has suggestions for colors, all yours.
Purple.
Oh, let's see. Purple. Yeah, I like that one.
It's like a lipstick color. I can't quite place my finger on the name of that color. It's like red.
Mauve.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not the artist here. I'm the programmer.
There we go. Got some colors to branch off of. Gotta be bright. He's gotta have lots of color. This guy's some sort of messenger. I listed him as a bard, but I mean that more
I literally was like, this is a bard.
More in the like traditional sense of what a bard is, rather than I'm not saying to people, here's a NPC with bard levels, but you know, they could. They absolutely
Horny man with an
could.
instrument.
I don't know. He's not a tiefling.
Hey, orcs have their
Tusks.
own level of. Well, yeah, they have that too, but they have their own
That's the
level of
joke I
charm.
was going for.
They have teeth.
Chiefs.
I was gonna try to make a joke about tiefling, but it didn't work.
Their teeth can have flings. But they make proper bards like that, yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about the fact that, like, why are there orcs always like bottom teeth going up, and then I realized if it was the opposite direction, they'd just be a vampire.
They'd be fangs, yes.
Yeah. So really, you just need both of them.
I mean, that would be intense, but
It leans towards his father's side.
you did have a half orc, half tiefling. You have the fangs and the. Okay. You know what? We'll go.
Tiefling.
Yeah, why not?
Just trying to visualize without actually end up looking like. My brain just decided to take the bottom tusks and just wrap them around the dude's head, or his teeth end up being the horns.
That is terrifying, and I hate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. It makes it really difficult to eat things.
Yeah, he would starve. No. Terrifying. I hate this. It's rejected.
It's just warthog tusks.
That's a little better. First, now I'm singing in my head Lion King songs, but I'm making Lion King references.
Rusty Dusty Princess, Rusty Dusty Princess.
Well, there's that one, yeah. I do love that one too. Hell yeah. I think I want to do it the other way. No, maybe this is nice. I was just doing the when he was a young warthog thing in my head. Because Bard, after all, he's probably has a song about his own life.
I was thinking how interesting it would be if, you know, the concept of as you grow up, your features become more defined, and just being like, so, you know, if you're an orc and you grow up, you know, you get more of like your orcish features. But I was thinking about how hilarious it would end up being if it was the opposite. As you grow up, you got less defined in your orcish features, and then trying to picture what a baby orc would look like.
It's one of those kids where you're like, and you ever see baby pictures where it looks like an old man, and you're like, that is a
exist.
fully grown. This isn't Benjamin Button shit because this kid came out looking like our grandpa.
All right, Ian. Take care. Get a good night's sleep. I understand the work thing a lot. Yeah, it was nice hanging out with you too. Hope you sleep well.
Yeah.
Remember to turn on the blue light filter on your phone when you go to bed. Because no one actually goes to bed. Yeah, I'm gonna head off. Proceeds to lay in bed for the next hour and a half before actually deciding to go to sleep.
Yes, that does happen.
I wonder if there was like a ye olde equivalent to that. It's probably reading a book, honestly.
Probably. Or, you know,
Like, yeah.
banging your wife.
Or that, yeah.
Or they had a lot of kids.
I don't want to go to bed yet. Hey, honey, are you up?
I am now. What is it? Ah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see. The kids are right over there, but because we all live in one room, but.
Oh no!
Asshole.
The
unfortunate thing. If you've ever done any of those tours, when like I went to like Shakespeare's birthplace, and they showed you like the one room thing, and they're like, and yeah, and it's how many kids they had, and the kids slept here, and the parents definitely slept here, and they continued to have children. You're like, well,
yeah. It didn't have to be at night. You could just keep sending the kids to school.
Oh yeah, you think that most of them are going to school?
Okay, fine. You can keep sending the kids to go work on the farm. Back then, it wasn't called child labor. Back then, it was called education. It was called being an intern.
Well, it would be apprenticeships, yes. You're not wrong. Do I want to go green?
Hey, kid, play with this hot metal.
Do we want to go dark green with the hair? Or maybe like a tealish? Dark green.
I want to give him highlights.
Okay, where do you want to give him highlights?
I want him to have like frosted tips.
Are you kidding me? Is he from what, the Ye Olde NSYNC?
Yeah, Ye Olde NSYNC band. or better yet, like if you want to make him seem a little unique, you could give him white roots or like really lightly colored roots. And just in the more information sections, like he dyes his hair
frequently.
Go outside and don't come back for a couple hours. Definitely something my mother has said to me once.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Thankfully, my parents got lucky because when I was probably between the ages of like, let's say 9 and 12, probably 7 and 12, I would leave. Like I would just walk out of the house, go hang out at the neighbor's kid's house, and we would just hang out for literally 6 or 7 hours, and then I would come back. But it was consistent, like every day.
So then they would know where you are, so.
Exactly. They didn't even have to tell me to do anything. He's like, oh, he's going to leave in 20 minutes. Door clicks. Yep, we have 6 hours. Problem is, though, is my parents obviously had to work during the summer.
Yes. So. Parents who weren't teachers. Tell me, how was that?
Well, I can tell you I definitely started staying home alone when I was like 12.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because my parents were like, you know how to feed yourself, right? Yeah. You know how to not light things on fire accidentally, right? Then my parents realized that I had an incident with a Pop-Tart. And they went, you know how to handle it if a Pop-Tart gets stuck in the toaster, right? I'm like, yeah, now I do. And they're like, okay, we're going to set some ground rules. Don't use the oven. Don't use the toaster oven. And don't use the toaster while we're gone. And I was like, okay, I'll just use the microwave for everything. And they're like, okay, good.
Oh no. I feel like
we'll be back.
That could have been a bad thing too.
No, it was all right. But yeah, they were basically, they told me don't use anything that uses fire or direct heating elements. And I was, eventually I turned like 14 or something like that, and I knew how to use these things, so I just started using them while they were gone. And it's that kind of like, your kid's getting older, and you go, yeah, he's probably using the oven, and you just kind of accept it. That's what basically ended up happening. Is my parents were gone, and I just ended up using the oven anyway.
So you're a latchkey
Uh,
kid, is what I'm hearing.
I have no idea what that means.
That is exactly that. When usually it was like back in the 80s, and kids would be sent home, and they from school they probably wouldn't see their parents till late. They would let themselves in. That's why it's a latchkey, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's exactly what it was. I get home before my parents did.
Yeah. So
It was my responsibility to put the dog out every single, while having flashbacks, every single day I got home from school. It was my responsibility to grab Soko or Tucker and put them out to go to the bathroom. I would walk in, I'd put my backpack down, they'd just steamroll their way up to me, tails wagging and everything. I'd lean back outside. The door wouldn't even close at that point. I'd grab the leash, I'd hook them on, and I'd let them out, and then I would walk in. But yeah, I was home before my parents because I got home. My parents got home anywhere between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and I got home at like 3 to 4 o'clock,
yeah.
depending on like what grade I was in. So I was home for a couple hours before they were, and it wasn't that bad. Um, it was just, I would. Oh God, I don't even remember what I do. I'd either hang out with the neighbors and do, normal kid stuff like digging holes in the middle of the woods, or playing sword fight with sticks, or getting your friend's toy stuck in a tree because you threw it too high. But eventually it got to like, it was like video games, or got to, because I would never do my homework. I just wouldn't. And I still hate that homework is a thing. But yeah, it was interesting. Um, oh yeah, probably want to know about the story with the Pup Tart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Pop Tarts are terrifying. Um, they
False,
have
but
caused
continue.
numerous fires across America because you put the Pop Tart in the toaster, and then the frosting would melt, and then the frosting would get stuck to the cage.
What
So
temperature are your toasters in America? Because that seems dangerous. I have never had the frosting ever melt ever.
well, when your heating element is literally right next to it, it's not the temperature. Toasters actually don't have a temperature setting. They only have a time setting. So if you lower the dial, you're not making it less hot. You're just putting it in for a less amount of time. Um, so at some point, the dial was intended for toast, and probably used by like my brother or something. Because my brother's a weirdo, but he was set for like, how you see toast in most TV shows where it's like very clearly brown.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my brother would cook his toast to. I'm the type of person who'd cook it to like there's a coating of yellow like across the top where like it's toasted, but it's not that far. Um, and I must not have been paying attention. But anyway, so I put the Pop Tart in. I pressed the button down, and the frosting melted because it was in there for too long, and then the cage wouldn't let go. See, here's the thing about 13 years ago. Safety regulations a lot looser than they are now. I am sure nowadays they have mechanisms where if they let the toast pop, that there's probably an internal circuit that turns off the heating element as well. So even if it doesn't pop and it stays stuck, the heating element will turn off and no longer continue to cook it. Well, many, many moons ago, that didn't exist. So the heating element was engaged probably by some sort of metallic contact slider in the handle of the popping unit. So when it let go and it didn't move, that contact point was still engaged. So the heating element stayed on.
This is the point at which I would have unplugged the toaster.
See, I was a kid, and there was smoke pouring out of the toaster.
If there was smoke, I would have unplugged it. What kind of kid were you?
I freaked out. I ran upstairs.
Oh my god.
I slammed on the door because my mom was taking a shower. Slammed on the door and I said, "The toaster's on fire." And then hid in my room.
Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure I was like 7. No. I was either still in kindergarten or in first grade, one of those two.
Okay. Now it's a little more reasonable than the other story.
Yeah, I was either in kindergarten or in first grade. So my mom heard me say that, takes a second, and thinks whether or not I'm being a shit, decides that she's going to check anyway. So she goes downstairs, towel on, and there's probably a flame at this point just coming out of the toaster. And she walks over and she unplugs it. And she walks upstairs. She just goes, "Okay, everything's fine." By the way, if this happens again, or this happens on anything else, the toaster is powered by the outlet next to it. So you can take that cord and remove it, and it will stop. Because I was young enough that, like, in that moment, I didn't understand the concept of, like, I could do something about it. Like, I thought, well, it's on fire. It's going to stay on fire now. So I got an adult who would probably figure out what to do with it. And she unplugged it and, like, took it outside or something for it to burn out. That is one of the only times in my entire life that I can remember freaking out in a, like, critical situation. And I think it's probably the reason why I don't freak out anymore when I probably should. So to make this even more interesting, we're going to fast forward about 10 or 11 years into the future, where
Okay.
I'm living with my mom. My parents are divorced. I'm going to high school. My mom's a smoker, or was. And she put out a cigarette and put it in the ashtray, and then took the ashtray and put it in the trash. I'm in the living room and I'm playing either video games or I'm watching TV or something, but I'm in the living room. My mom gets out of the shower, goes to walk into the bedroom, and I just hear her yell, "Fire." And I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and went, "What?" And she points over at the trash can, and there is probably about a 1.5 to 2 foot flame in the trash can. And I was like, huh, okay. Turn around, walked calmly into the kitchen. She's yelling like, "Oh my God, what do we do? What do we do?" And she's freaking out. I walk into the kitchen. I grab the fire extinguisher that for some reason I remembered where it was. I grabbed this little small fire extinguisher, walk into the bedroom, stand over the fire, point it, and just go. And 2 things happened. 1, most of the fire went out. 2, ashes just went everywhere.
Oh, gross.
Because fire extinguishers are pressurized.
Yeah.
So if you shoot them in a very close proximity to leaf or loose leaf stuff, that pressure is going to shoot that stuff out. So it shot stuff everywhere. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's out. So I take the trash can, I take it out of her bedroom. I go out to the balcony because we're in where it's a condo, air quotes, but it was an apartment that you could buy to own, which is just fucking stupid. Um, but I take it outside onto the balcony and I put it on the balcony. And the balcony is concrete with a metal railing.
Uh-huh.
And I go back inside, I sit back down, and I continue watching either TV or playing video games. My mom dries off, gets dressed, whatever. I'm looking at the TV. And out of the corner of my eye, I see movement. I'm like, oh, it's probably like a squirrel, whatever. And it's still moving.
No.
I'm like, okay, it's been a couple of seconds. Not a squirrel. I look over, the trash can is back on fire. And I proceeded to lean forward and go, should I put it out?
No.
Like, am I going to cause more of a problem with the fire extinguisher if I try to put it out? So I go outside, go next to the trash can fire, and I stand next to it and I go, oh, it's not that tall. And I stand next to this fire happening in this trash can for about 4 or 5 minutes, just watching it burn down. And also watching the plastic trash can falling apart.
Yeah.
Because it's melting because there's a fire in it. And that's the point when I realized I should put this out. So I go back inside. I grab the fire extinguisher again. I go to the now burning down fire. I put it out. I go back inside. I grab a fucking cup of water. And I go outside and I dump the water into the trash can. And I start stirring the trash around.
Ew.
So it's like soaked through. And my mom walks out and she goes, what's going on? And I went, trash can went back on fire. And she went, what? I went, it's fine. It's out now. So she goes outside with like the slider door open. She looks at the trash can and she goes, oh my God. And I'm like, what? She's like, it's destroyed. And I'm like, well, yeah, there was a fire in it. So she's like, all right, I'm buying a metal trash can from now on for my bedroom.
Good. Nice heating up. that will do. Next time it's on fire.
I have never heard her have any sort of fires related to trash cans since.
Good. She learned something that day.
Yeah, it probably helps that like 4 or 5 years down the line, I basically forced her to stop smoking cigarettes and start moving to e-cigs. Not much better, but I'd rather her just be sucking on nicotine than also every other chemical. But yeah, that was the moment when I realized that like I panicked once in a crisis that almost ended with my entire house burning down. If my mom went, okay, he's just playing, he's calling wolf or whatever, that literally would have ended with the house burning down. And since then, I have decided that panicking in any situation that is dire is going to make it worse. If you can do something, don't panic, because if you panic, whatever you're thinking you can do, you're not going to do it as well as you could if you weren't panicking. So, the time that I cut my finger open, other time that I cut my finger open, the time I stepped on a blender blade, calm as a whistle, bleeding everywhere, being like, well, this sucks, but hey, if I squish the skin together, it'll stop bleeding eventually.
Oh my God.
I was right, it did stop bleeding.
Yeah, blue eyes. Cute.
I love my mom. She's just
She seems like a very interesting woman.
She's very intelligent. She's not very wise.
Oh, okay. Bring it back to D&D like that.
No, just in general. She's very smart.
I know, but this is supposed to be a half D&D, half radio silence stream, and we've done nothing of that sort, so...
Oops. Blender Blade is my new cover band. It's actually kind of metal.
But
Oh my god. No, I didn't actually mean it like that.
At least that has something to do with bands.
Okay, you pick a topic.
Let's see. We could talk about storytelling in things that have time limits. Because webcomics, for example, have limitations. We've discussed this before, I've got to tell a story and also try and hook people back to want to read more. Basically on every page. That doesn't mean I have to do a cliffhanger on every page, but it does mean I have to make people want to come back to see how the story progresses. And I think that
yes.
in a sense has influenced how I like deliver my D&D content. Because like because I DM for you and another group, your group and another group.
You always have to end it on a thing.
I always do.
Always, but...
I always do have something that will bring you back for next time that you're thinking of and you're looking forward to, or a goal that you have set out. Because I know that some sessions end and you're in a halfway in between place, or you're not at a place where your character is gripping at, or like at why they're asking why they're there or whatever. Unless you're keeping them on track as the storyteller and giving them reason and making it very clear. And
I think you run into the interesting issue of the page by page comic structure.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take all of your pages and you put them in a book,
which I have,
easily
Volume 1 available in the store right now.
And you go from page to page, it won't read the same as a comic book that was clearly designed to be in a book format, because every single page ends on a thing. And I can see it getting tiresome in the same vein of there's constantly explosions on the screen, where there's constantly cliffhangers at the end of every single page, and it gets very I don't want to say abrasive, but I want to say like invasive, like it's a constant permanent thing that the you're always aware of as a reader. But on the flip side of that, the format in which its intended delivery is, which is a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, in order to have recurring readers, you kind of have to do that. Because if you don't do that, and you give people the ability to forget, if you will, then nothing is going to stick in their brain for them to come to the next page. But if you took that and you turned it into a comic book, it would flow better. So it's a very interesting duality of presentation, that the way you hand out.
And I have to be aware of both, because I'm eventually putting it in a book.
The intention is to put it into a book.
Yeah. So if you do read it as a book, in book format, it flows pretty well from my standpoint. I obviously know where it's going and where it's coming from, but I don't think anyone has made complaints that they were ever lost or tired or of where I was going. Because the subject of my comic isn't explosions and tiresome. It doesn't feel like the equivalent of Mad Max, which absolutely bored the crap out of me, but had a bunch of explosions and car chases and stuff, because it was at a constant new level of trying to have that energy. But if that energy is constant, just like having a cliffhanger on each single page would feel like,
For me, I think it's not the explosions, but for me, I think it's interpersonal drama. That on every follow-up page that in Radio Silence, there's always a dramatic problem between characters that is being presented or exacerbated near the end of a page.
Sometimes. I don't know if just
that's the hook.
the most recent arcs, for sure. There's always internal thoughts going on with the characters and the like, but
yeah.
And they get the quiet moments to balance that out. Always help.
Aaron Canadian says it worked so well that I picked up one of those groups for a special or for a sequel campaign. They couldn't get enough of those characters. I'm not exactly sure what you're referencing because this message might be a little bit old. So if you want to elaborate on that a bit. This chat. You got me doing it now.
Well, it's because I'm not a streamer, like we mentioned, and I come from where the comics world, the webcomic world, where it is literally a comment section. So I'm inclined to call it a comment section, which I know it's not because it's more live than that. But to me, right over here, when I just keep looking over, it just feels like a comment section.
That's true.
Because I'm not seeing it move live.
Gotcha. Comment is I took on one of Vanessa's dragon heist groups after they wrapped that adventure.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Hey. Yeah, they most definitely. I am, again, I should probably, because I'm not sure who's come and gone. I am working on NPCs that can just be snatched up. They have portraits and they have a full body image. I'm giving a bare minimum of information because I can let the DM fill in from what they need. So this could be a bard or a messenger, a courier, a courtier of sorts. I'm giving him
a jester.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, we use him for what you like. I'm filling a niche that I can see needs filling in the DM world.
He's a rogue.
We all get stuck. That would be a very interesting rogue. Honestly, I'm for it.
Subvert expectations.
Yeah.
This is a peacock rogue. Their entire purpose is to bring and present themselves to people, to charismatically get involved with groups and organizations so that they can use their roguish abilities to, after infiltrating via charisma, get whatever they need to get.
I am all for this. I love this. I feel like I should give hooks like that, like a 1 sentence, 2 sentence thing, and several of them, like ideas like that one, or the courtier angle or whatever, because they could. They're pulling up this book. They're taking it from whatever source. I haven't figured out where I'm putting it yet, but they're pulling it out. They're making the purchase because they are stuck in some way. They need that push, so they need a little bit of information for the jumping off point. Because I don't know their campaigns. I don't know what they need filled, like what niche they need filled. So, but they do, and they might like that. They might see that and latch onto it.
It could be interesting if you wanted to do a page where you have a table and it's just the class table, where, for instance, I'm a DM. They're going to they're going to a religious place, right? And I see this guy and I go, it would be hilarious for this guy to be like a pastor or something. So I go to the table and I go, okay, cleric. And there's a little snippet of why this person is a cleric, or like what their presentation means to be a cleric. And then you could do like each individual class where like, this is a barbarian, or like, and then like the barbarian part of him, he doesn't get angry. He just is really excitable and can't control his own strength. So he goes into combat and he's like super excited to show people things. And that's the equivalent of him raging or whatever.
I love that. Anyone else?
Yeah, you could also.
Yeah, anyone else here in this chat can pipe up if that sounds like something I should do. Would be interesting.
There was a recommendation of doing a D6 table, of allowing basically RNG to take over whatever.
Love it.
fashion of, oh, I don't know, I guess job would be the best way to describe it. It's
Yeah.
not really necessarily a class.
Right,
'Cause a
because we
class
don't
is
want
kind
to
of like,
assign a class to an NPC, because a DM can do that for sure. But like we said, if you fall into that trap every time you make an NPC and you give them a player class levels,
mhm.
it really messes with the balance.
Yeah, they can be a rogue, but they're not going to be the rogue class, or they can be a cleric or druid or a paladin or whatever, but they're not necessarily the class of
Yeah, and I could
that.
suggest then, like, use the stats from the swashbuckler from page whatever. If you're,
Yeah,
yeah,
Dungeon Master's Guide,
yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
master
Whatever,
manual or whatever.
whatever manual it is. I don't have that memorized. That's someone else's job
Yeah.
in our campaigns.
At the end of the book, there's a gold dragonborn. It's like, use the, if you you know, if this person engages in combat, use the stat block for the ancient dragon on page, and it's just like
That'd be
double take, like, wait, hey, wait a minute.
amazing. Like, yes, smiley face. Go wild.
Yeah, exactly. No, this person specifically, this gold, like 12-year-old dragonborn, is using the stat block of an ancient dragon.
It's a plot hook all its own right there. Ugh. This guy. How much time do we have left?
14.
Well, I can get into a little more of this lady. I don't know if you saw her earlier. Her with her like interesting cane.
Your kids get up alone.
Or she taps it. I believe I found a magic item specifically. Yes, because it creates a mount for her. So she taps into the ground when she needs and it basically has the properties of the expeditious retreat. So if she's just like, I'm out, and then a big, like, I don't know, deer or something
I'm
rides
just
off her.
picturing like a billy goat.
Okay, that would be amazing too. Maybe I should make it goat-like.
Because I saw the hoof, the first thing that came to mind. Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind was a goat.
I'm like, why
And
not?
it's like her mountain summons. Everyone's, oh, it's gonna be like an elk or a deer. It's gonna be like a bear or like a giant eagle. It's a goat.
She literally
I'm
just
sorry,
like.
what? Hang on, it's a billy goat.
Yep, exactly. I love that.
Everyone, because to me as a player, I'd be like,
Ooh, she's something powerful. She has some cool, powerful thing, and then
where does goats originate from this region? Why would it be a goat?
I love this.
DM, that is unusually specific. Why? That was my favorite thing to do to players. I love putting in things that don't actually mean anything of any importance, but I like to have fun with my players because I know my players will, for instance, investigate every single room, every single nook and cranny, just everything. And on multiple occasions, I have put in things that
To troll
seem
us.
like they're important and like seem like there's a plot reason for these to be here, or that, you know, it ties into something. And I love watching my players try to figure it out while I just sit back and like take a drink of water or something and listen to them discuss what this could possibly be for 20 minutes. Moving on and never talking about it again. Because ultimately what it ends up being is I put this in here because I know your tendencies to look at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally just put this in here just to watch you guys squirm and try to figure out what it is. And no, it's not anything important because you live in a world where there is the mundane too.
Yeah.
Like you find a purple bed sheet with, you know, intricate golden trim in it in a box hidden in a corner in the cellar. Every single player is going to be like,
Ooh, this.
it's magic.
Yeah.
Like, we got to take
We
this
now have to do.
and we
I'd
got to,
sit and identify and.
yeah, or we got to take this to someone who can identify it for us, or we got to put this away. This could be something important. And it's literally, I don't, well, I'm just going to throw this out there. It's just sex sheets. It's just Valentine's Day bed sheets. You put it on the bed to make it look really nice and presentable, and then things happen. And that's it. That is the entire purpose of it. And when it's not being used like that, it's hidden away in the cellar so other people can't find it. And you found it because you went snooping in this poor guy's house. And now you're going to take this man's bed sheets and take it to some person in the town who knows them and try to have them identified. And you're going to get a really weird reaction out of the shopkeep because that person is having an affair with them.
I love it.
It's just like,
I would live for this plot. This is amazing.
yeah, it's mundane. It's super mundane. It's just, it's not anything special. I just put some extra details into it and made it, feel like it should be unique and special, when no, it's really not. You just robbed this guy of his like linens. That's it. That's all you did. You robbed this dude of his linens and then took it to the local shop to see if you could figure out what it was.
I love that. Especially if you have the time to mess with people like that. But not if you do it all the time. Obviously, then
It's the best
it'll
when
wear
you
off.
actually, when you match the style of explaining important objects.
Yes.
Because you need to have explained some things that are important so that you can copy that manner into something that is really just not important.
Yeah. I'm enjoying painting her hair. A lot of fun.
Looks like it. Yeah, I love doing that because it really sets a thing that, like, you don't know if the thing that you're getting is gonna be like a magical carpet,
Right.
or if it's just gonna be a Christmas present for this poor person's husband,
Right.
and you just ripped it out from underneath them, ran away with it, being like, "Oh, this totally matches the description of a flying carpet," and then proceeded to try to figure out how to use it for the next 2 days before
Whee!
ultimately.
What's the command word, guys? Can't figure it out. We're just sitting
Yeah.
in the middle of the street, just like rocking back and forth on this rug.
And it depends. If they've done it before,
Yeah.
then you make it a mundane carpet. And if they haven't done it before, you really screw with them and you make it a flying carpet. Because then they're going to do that same thing again somewhere else where they're definitely not supposed to do that.
Yeah. It's in my game recently, a couple sessions back, you got that one sheet that you just pull off a bed, because I had put that we play with mostly the same people, so like you said, they like to go like room to room to room, and investigate absolutely everything. So there's a bunch of mundane stuff that you guys received, including the silk bed sheet from the cult leader's bed. That, I mean, it is silk. It's pretty nice fabric. You guys took it, as you said.
Yeah.
And you then creatively, like later, you touch base with me and it's like, is this just a bed sheet? Like, is this literally just like, we've had it for a while? Like, so can I use this as fabric? It's like, absolutely, of course. And coming up with an interesting idea with your weaver's tools to change it into a dress for the teammate.
Yeah. Because I was like, all right, Orion, my character, basically decided that he was going to make a party member a fancy performance dress, I guess, because she's a bard. And his initial thought basically was to sell it, because he could make something out of it, make something nice, turn around and sell it. And he knew that if he sold that, he could probably get tens of, if not 100 gold, because it's a nice dress, but it's also made of silk, which is a higher end material that, you know, would be expensive to both get and expensive to manufacture into a dress. But ultimately, I decided that my character is not really money bound, because he's self sufficient when it comes to, you know, food and water and the like. He doesn't need money to survive. So instead of selling it, he literally just took it and gave it to his teammate because he's like, even if I did sell it, I'm not really going to get anything for it. And the only reason why, and he thinks like that immediately after spending over 1,000 gold in the city before, uh, because he went on a shopping spree.
So he doesn't need money, huh?
Well, yeah, it turns into he's not a materialistic person. He definitely thinks he can survive without all the stuff. But also this dragon staff that shoots fire out of the head of it when I bop things with it is super cool and I really want it.
There, and then that could be... I'm having to reference my own art. Didn't even know where I was going with this. How do we feel about greens?
Well, that depends on where do you think she would be from? Is she going to be from a temperate climate? Would she be from a woods? Would she be from a mountainside? Is it gray or like a rock color?
I had her down as Old Ranger. So, what would you think if I went with the Billy Goat idea that you had suggested? What kind of climate would she have been used to?
Billy Goat.
That's mountainous usually, right?
Yeah, I believe they're mountainous creatures. Billy Goat. Yep, they are. Okay. So I'm just getting. What is that? Sorry, I found an image of a game where a billy goat is wearing pants. That one's on a cannon. That's just a lawnmower. This is weird.
It certainly sounds weird.
We're just gonna go ahead and say mountains. So probably grays, whites, greens, and that's kind of it. And maybe blues for like water or like glacier.
They're not far off from where I was.
Billy goats, and they get +2 against bridge trolls. God, that just reminds me of that hugging hag.
I love my hugging hag. I actually don't know that the one group, as mentioned, I don't know if he's still here, but he took over for that. 'Cause I don't think I mentioned that group went up when they went up the mountain. They ran into a woman who was a gnome, appeared to be a gnome in a jumpsuit, like a really old lady, like one of those ones with the matching tops and bottoms, and they helped him out with the
Russian, I'm sorry,
what was it? It was some sort of monster. Do you remember what kind of monster it was? It shot things out of its tail is all I remember.
Yeah, it's the thing that I threw at you guys when you left the city.
And it's a tough fight, especially when there was only 4 of them. Yeah, I can't remember. And it's a tough fight when they only had 4 of them, and especially even with the 5 that I did recently, the most recent Waterdeep that I've run that game 5 times. They yes, I can't wait to be rid of it. They needed a little bit of help, So this lady who comes along, who initially, speaking of subverting expectations, they think that they have to protect this lady because she is obviously an old woman on a jogging trail in a jumpsuit, but she ends up coming Manticore, yeah. Ends up coming over to the Manticore and hugging it and crushing it so badly that it, like I said, remember one of them was a crit. I don't remember which group, but and doing this impressive amount of damage. And so I think one group at least, if not both, definitely
I haven't used it the entire stream, and I actually did it because we are at 2 hours.
Okay.
So we'll probably be ending the stream after this story.
Yes.
So
all right,
so you guys aren't surprised.
Yeah, she does all this damage. They think that they've had to have protected her, and meanwhile she basically saves their asses. And both groups think maybe a monk, because they were up there to meet with a monk, not that monk, as it turns out. Nah, even I think both groups even went to her hut, this very haggish hut that I was up on, like a spire of them on the mountainside and everything, and sat and drank with her and stuff. But because neither of them was very hostile or anything, that except for the one group that left there accidentally, had to leave their immovable rod, which they asked her to recover for them. They didn't get that back. She 100% kept that herself. She is a hag after all, not that either group met her in her hag form. But I can't remember which type of hag. I think it was like the anise something hag, but that was the stats I was using for it. And it has like this crushing hug effect that I was having a lot of fun with. Subvert expectations. Anyway.
Yeah, she was terrifying and I hated her, and Ozeron also hated her and tried poisoning her via mercury.
That wouldn't have worked. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, both R and everybody in the chat. This was for Ontario's, for Brampton specifically, but the Culture Days event that's going on. It has been going on for a month now. I think we're at the tail end of it. I'm here to represent my webcomic, Radio Silence. You can read the whole thing. It's on hiatus right now as I'm having to wait for my computer to come in next month. But you catch up, perfect time to do so, radiosilencecomic.com. And I also am a D&D merch designer, currently working on some new stuff, but my old stuff, dragon dice bags and gelatinous cubes and owlbear plushies are also available for sale. Just go to any of my social media, which is at Quiet Snooze, Twitter and the like, and any link you want is there for those. Including whenever this is finished, these are intended for sale for DMs to pick up. They will be groups of portraits and as well as full body of NPCs people can use in whatever game that they have. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay. So we're hoping to have a VOD of this up on YouTube. That is if Twitch is cooperating this time, because the box has been ticked, so we'll have to see if this actually creates the video.
Yeah.
We know that some people were unfortunately unable to make it.
Hello to those people. If they are, if this was actually successful in uploading.
If this actually made it to YouTube and you got to the end of the video, hello from the past. We appreciate you also watching the video, and you're here with us in spirit. If it doesn't make it to YouTube, then this is just going into the void.
Perfect. I love disappearing to the void. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, everyone. Bye.